don't always, any day, 'cause heaven can wait another day. Heaven can wait, heaven can wait, heaven can wait, heaven can wait another day. Heaven can wait, heaven can wait, heaven can wait, heaven can wait, heaven can wait.
Hey, good morning. 8:24.
Another day.
Maria Pangolina, the Guam Election Commission Executive Director, is coming up as the big news. Kind of a little bit before dark yesterday, the release came out, or something came out from the Democratic Party of Guam, announcing that they have voted to close their primary election. And we do have the party chair, Tony Babauta, joining us here in the KUAM News Link Zoom room. Good morning, Tony. Tony.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey,
welcome back. Welcome home.
There you
welcome
go.
Home.
Thank you. Well, Tone, let's just get right into it. I don't even really know to start, but I guess the best place would be the beginning. So how did this kind of come to fruition? If you could just walk us through the history of this decision to close you guys' primary, and then we'll get into what it means for people who are registered Democrats with the party and everyone else.
Well, it began probably back in 2004 when Republican Attorney General Doug Moylan filed a lawsuit against the Republican Party of Guam, the Democratic Party of Guam, and the Guam Election Commission over a matter discussing. And the case was before former Republican Senator and current presiding Superior Court Judge Alberto Lamarena, who in his ruling ruled that Guam law, I think that prohibits parties from choosing their primary election was unconstitutional, that it violated the First Amendment. And that was based on a Supreme Court ruling, California versus Jones. And in that ruling, he told the Guam Election Commission that the Guam, he ruled that it's unconstitutional, that parties themselves have the prerogative to choose the type of primary that they want the Guam Election Commission to conduct. And further in the ruling, ordered the Guam Election Commission to, at a time certain, I guess, I'm not sure how operationally that works, but at a time certain, to inform the parties. And as long as the party's bylaws and articles allow for a closed primary or an open primary, and in that instance, everyone had bylaws that allow for an open primary, that the parties themselves can choose. And then the party's responsibility after it's informed and makes a decision has to inform the Guam Election Commission by June 28th before that primary election, I guess, or before that election. And so I found out about it March 10th when Maria Pangolina sent the party a letter with the attached court case.
Right. Tony, let me just bust in here. Now, to be clear, guys, from what I understand, I think the GECs, they send this letter out every election to the parties, and they say, hey, just so you know, you guys, according to this court ruling, have the option to close your primary, but no one has decided to do that ever, right, until now.
That seems to be the case. I wasn't part of the party structure or the party's governing body in years past, and so I'm learning a lot, and I learned that they did this, and I found it incumbent upon myself as chairman to. It's not a decision that I make solely. It's something that has to be presented to the CEC itself, which is the governing body of the party, democratically elected representatives of the party, elected by Democrats, and in our bylaws we have things that need to be met for those sorts of amendments to the bylaws to be met. There has to be a quorum. It should be presented. Obviously, it should be presented. We don't need bylaws to do that. And then a certain number of votes have to be cast in favor or against.
So I guess as of now, Tony, when I read the amendment you guys made, who is able to vote in your closed Democrats only Democratic primary?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Who's able to vote in your closed primary? What's the eligibility?
It would be registered Democrats.
Are you talking registered Democrats who are registered with the Guam Election Commission and declare their party affiliation upon registration, or is there another type of registration you're referring to?
No, I believe it's that. It's one and the same. Like for example, you can be a Democrat but not registered with the party, but you can go in and pick up a Democratic packet and register as a Democrat. And as long as you meet the requirements that are set under Guam law, which is the 250 signatures, and you declare which side of the ballot you want to be on, you're a registered Democrat with the Guam Election Commission.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Maria about that. But, I mean, Ton, I'm just going to call it like I see it, outside looking in. This was done to prevent Republicans from crossing over in the Democratic primary election. And I know that the thought has been that the Republicans really want Congressman Michael Nicholas to pull out the dub in this primary. And so people are saying that that's why you guys closed it off, to prevent that.
What it does in effect is it preserves a registered Democrat's vote that's cast in favor of a Democratic candidate in a Democratic primary to represent the party in the general election, where everyone gets to choose who the elected leader is, or who ends up getting elected into office and making decisions for the term that they're in office. The Republican primary and the Democratic primary, as we know, is an operation so that the Republican Party of Guam and the Democratic Party of Guam narrows down choices and sends their party representatives to the general election.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand.
The action by the CEC taken last night was to preserve the votes of those voters who have decided to register and affiliate themselves with the Democratic Party. It preserves those votes.
Right. I mean, but it also goes both ways. I'm presuming there are people who are going to vote for the incumbent that maybe aren't registered, Democrats, right?
Only registered Democrats would be able to participate in the primary election. That's what a closed primary is.
Yeah. So,
as a matter of fact, there's a recent trend in six different states in the United States where the Republican Party has closed off their primary so that Democrats don't water down a Republican vote. That's in 6 different states. In total, there's 14 states that actually have a type of closed primary. And there are several different types of closed primary. There's a out and out closed primary. There's a partially closed, partially open primary. Different states have different things. Those things we couldn't consider, those different varying types. And I think we could only consider open or closed because Judge Lamarena, in his order to the Guam Election Commission, ordered them to ask the parties what their prerogative is going to be, whether it's open or closed. There was no contemplation in our reading of the judge's order for a partially closed, partially open, a blanket primary, this or that primary. There was no contemplation for that.
What do you think of prominent Democrat Speaker Therese Terlahi's criticism just before you came on that she feels like this is a move that's going to limit voter participation? And God knows, Tony, I mean, that discussion, the last election was, dismal turnout by Guam standards. That has been the conversation about trying to get people excited to show up and vote, and then you pull a move like this, and I'm just not sure what the reaction is going to be from the voters, other than the confusion that we're feeling this morning in terms of like, how do I even cast a ballot now in this closed primary and what the process is going to be. So I guess just first of all, do you feel like this move is limiting voter participation in our democracy?
I think the decision of the Central Executive Committee is something that ends up energizing the base. I was actually quite surprised, right? So I have about 51 members that can participate in the Central Executive Committee. Only 15 didn't show. And, the vote count, there was an overwhelming majority. And there was plenty of discussion during the amendment itself. And there were some that didn't like the change. Change is always difficult. But there are many others who seem to express their frustration over the years, even with the anecdotal story. I don't know that even with the anecdotal stories of of a party trying to raid another party's primary election, which is called raiding, right? That's the term of art for it. And there seemed to be some frustrations that were expressed by longtime Democrats that they don't want their vote to be watered down. They want to preserve the vote of registered Democrats to elect those candidates who decide to run as Democrats to be the standard party bearers in the general election, and they bear the values of the party as they are successful out of the primary, elected by Democrats, and put themselves in a position in the general election to be elected by all the people of Guam. But I mean, change is difficult.
Yeah.
No doubt, change is difficult. But the Central Executive Committee, which is the governing body of the Democratic Party, made this choice themselves.
There was, as I'm sure you saw, a comment from the Democratic challengers, Congressman Michael St. Nicholas, issuing a news release calling this move the latest political move by the Lou and Josh team to deny people their freedom to vote for whom they choose in the primary election. He also singled out the party chair, for proposing to close the primary. St. Nicholas's running mate, Sabrina Salas-Matanani, said, quote, if the Democratic Party is going to deny people their right to choose, regardless of party, we will rally the people with an independent ticket. I guess your reaction to both those comments?
Well, the entity that made the decision was the Central Executive Committee, which is voted by Democrats to deal with party affairs, of which choosing either an open or closed primary is one of their responsibilities. Candidates themselves running for office need to make their own decisions on whether they want to run as a Republican, an independent, or a Democrat, and I'm sure a lot goes into that sort of thought. I mean, these were representative. There was very little talk about anything about the gubernatorial campaign, and when there was, I reminded everyone who was representing Democrats from their villages that what's being put before them is not put before them to the betterment or to the detriment of any Democratic candidate that's running for office. What this does is it empowers Democrats and preserves their votes in a Democratic primary to select the standard party bearers into the general election.
Are you worried about the backlash? I mean, I'm pretty sure some people are looking at this and they say, oh, they're suppressing the vote in the primary, but we're going to get them in the general. Is the general open, though? Tone, is the general open still? General election's open.
The general is an absolutely open election. I mean, that's where the final decision is made, Chris. Yeah. Republicans, Democrats, independents alike, those who are affiliated, those who are non-affiliated, get to see which candidates were put forth by the different parties, Republican, Democrat, or if there's an organized independent party, and they make the final choice for people to sit into office and be decision makers for the people of Guam for the next 2 years, for the next 4 years, whatever term that they're trying to, whatever office they're running for.
Tony, before I let you go, I did have, there was a question here in the comments. Which congressional candidate is receiving support from the Democratic Party? As we saw, Senator Talina Nelson filed yesterday, but we also know that former Speaker Judy Wampat also picked up a packet for congressional delegate. Can you provide any insight into what's going on with that?
The Democratic Party hasn't made any decision on endorsing any candidates. That's not something that's been put forth in front of the CEC for any sort of decision. I think you kind of have to wait until the registration date for candidates to file to figure out what the final roster is going to be. And I'm uncertain at this point. I'd have to check kind of the historical record if the CEC has made those sorts of endorsements, and if they want to make that sort of endorsement for this coming election.
Last question, sorry. Tony, in your guys' release, you said that there's a meeting next week, and should this decision, I mean, if there's a chance to reverse this decision, it would occur next week with the vote. Is this going to hold, Tony, or do you anticipate anybody wavering with the conversation that's happening after you guys made this move? I mean,
that everyone would be guessing at that. There was 30 votes, clear, overwhelming majority to close off the primary for affiliated voters who register with the Democratic Party or affiliate themselves with the Democratic Party. I can only go on what occurred last night. I can't game theory everything out. I'm here as party chairman to empower Democrats to keep incumbents in office and try to elect new Democratic candidates into open seats and kind of bring some assembly to the party and resources, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Do you think that this would affect, let's say, someone who's running in this election as a Democrat? Do you feel have to change up their game or their campaign to anticipate this move?
Well, I think if the party is a closed primary, then they're speaking to registered Democrats, and I think trying to espouse as much as possible, kind of to determine for themselves what they believe the registered Democrats of the Democratic Party of Guam believe in and their values and things that they want to see Democrats fight for. I think they do that. It's not unusual from anywhere else in the United States, and if you look at the highest level in office, that's what a Democratic nominee for president would do, and that's what a Republican nominee for president would do. Those nominee slots are chosen by the parties themselves, and we witnessed that during a presidential election where candidates feel a little torn that they have to appeal a little bit more to the base, and then after the primary election, they shift messaging and start to appeal to more center, right? But it's really the representatives of the party that end up choosing the nominee. And at the highest level, it's Democrats selecting a Democratic nominee and Republicans selecting their own Republican nominee for president of the United States.
Is this how it's going to be?
The vote itself is open to everyone, right?
Yeah. Ton, is this how it's going to be for every primary from here on out for the Democratic Party?
I think unless the Central Executive Committee decides otherwise.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
There you go. Party
Welcome
chair.
Back.
Thank you. Democratic Party Chair Tony Babauta. Let's go ahead and keep it going. Can we get Miss Maria in? We're going to take a quick break, and then we're coming back with Miss Maria Pangilinan of the Guam Election Commission. Tony just said it's going to hold. They had an overwhelming majority. So what does this mean execution-wise for the Guam Election Commission? Looking at the comments, people are confused. Is this something that the Democratic Party has on their own out of, Uncle Carl's ranch or whatever? Or is this something that or is this something that the Guam Election Commission has to oversee like a regular election? You know what I mean? Or are we just, it's a free-for-all? I don't know. We'll find out, though, next with the Guam Election Commission Executive Director Maria Pangilinan. It's 8:41. My name is Chris, and I am back. We'll take a break and continue with the link next.
Let us know what's up on our KOM News WhatsApp tip line at 671-727-0094. Share information about what's happening in your